are 5 that deal with disability issues. Sometimes they don't talk to each other.
Yeah.
And so it's very difficult to get streamlined services when you've got that many boards and commissions and they don't communicate. So we're looking at consolidation of those boards and commissions and asking for recommendations from each of the budget subs to do that.
See, I think that is so fascinating, because what we did was we took 68 different departments, boards, commissions, and put them into 22.
Wow, amazing.
And this just shows you that they keep popping up.
Yeah.
They just proliferate by themselves, spontaneously.
And one of the things that I am
keep an eye on them.
Exactly, and one of the things that I am working very hard on is a policy that's permanently in place. Before we ever establish another board or commission, can we identify, is there already an existing one that can do that job? Right. Or how much does it cost? What kind of an impact is that going to have on the state? So we're really looking at a permanent policy so that all of us as legislators have to look at that before any other board or commission is established.
Right. I want to mention one thing that we did during that reorganization.
Yes.
In the state government committee that I chaired, we had 9 women.
Oh, wow.
And we had what we called a generic amendment to any bill having to do with a board or commission or a department, and that was that 50% it had to be gender balanced.
Yes.
And it was interesting that we got a lot of flack from some boards, but the most vocal one was the nursing commission.
Really?
Because they said, where are we going to find enough qualified men
to serve on this board?
Right.
I can imagine.
Right.
Well, and
now I know they're doing it at the local level.
Yes. Last year we passed I was the one that floor managed that bill, and we did gender balance for local boards and commissions.
Right.
And those would be the ones that apply to cities, counties, and school districts in terms of any boards or commissions that they create that are subject to the open meetings law, that those would also be gender balanced. And you'll love it, because we had some of the same arguments about that you had when you were doing gender balance on boards and commissions at the state level. Yeah. So we were bringing out the old newspapers and showing, I think there was one that was just wonderful, because they talked about the boards and commissions at the state level and who would possibly fill the Board of Regents. And the Des Moines Register, I think with the League of Women Voters' help, came up with a list of like 500 women that could fill those roles at the state level, and challenge them to please tell me why those women wouldn't be qualified. And it was everybody from Joy Corning to Roxanne Conlon to, you name it. And it was a kind of a fun time. But and we've gotten pushback, obviously, from rural areas where county supervisors have said, well, you don't understand. We can't find qualified women to run and to be willing to fill these positions. And our first question is, have you asked them? Because oftentimes women are not asked.
Yes.
And so it's not a matter of them not being willing to run. Women predominantly are the ones involved in most volunteer organizations across the nation, not just in Iowa, but across the nation. So we know women are volunteering, and these are voluntary positions. Yeah. Now they're voluntary positions where they're actually going to have some say.
Yes.
So we're pretty excited about that. We also did a pay equity bill. It's kind of the Lilly Ledbetter bill for Iowa, because the Ledbetter bill applied to businesses of a certain size, and it was a national piece of legislation that obviously President Obama was very much supportive of. But this one deals with Iowa businesses, and it's even smaller organizations and smaller businesses that it would apply to. So it's more encompassing, we believe, than obviously the federal legislation, and we believe it's going to be an enormous positive effort in terms of allowing more women to be promoted and to be part of that process in terms of getting equal pay for equal work.
Great. Wonderful. What's been the toughest thing that you've had to do down there?
It's been interesting. We have a very diverse caucus. The Democratic caucus in the House is made up of members who live in very conservative rural areas, and then people like me who live in pretty liberal, progressive districts. And So when it comes to compromise and getting people to agree on an issue, it can be a challenge in terms of getting individuals from those diverse backgrounds to come together to agree on a particular piece of legislation. And yet, I think we've done some amazing things within the last 3 years since Democrats have been in control in both the House and Senate and have had the governor's office as well. Mm-hmm. When I look at the pay equity bill and our gender balance on boards and commissions, but also the civil rights legislation in terms of protecting gays, lesbians, transgendered, and bisexual people in the workplace and in housing, those are enormous issues in terms of the impact that has had on the state. The same thing with the anti-bullying bill. We've done some things in terms of health care, covering all Iowa kids. That's enormous, and that's going to have an enormous impact, for Iowans and for the children of Iowa. So I look at some of the very progressive legislation, smoking ban, in public places. That's something that would have never happened had it been a Republican-controlled legislature. And that has created a situation where we are second in the nation in terms of tobacco usage. That's enormous in terms of what that's going to do for health care in Iowa.
Yeah. And were all of these tough battles?
Very much so. And behind the doors, closed doors where we have our caucuses, and you've been in those caucuses and you know how contentious they can be and how difficult it is sometimes to reach that compromise. Right. And a bill that, you can get 56 supporters for in terms of our Iowa House Democrats. We don't always get all of them. And if we can get 51, sometimes we're very happy about that because we can still get the legislation through. But you have to understand, and you know this better than anyone, that if you're opposed to somebody on one issue, you may need their support on the next issue. Absolutely. And so it's really important that you create those relationships and that communication stays open. If you isolate or create silos where people feel like, they don't have anywhere else to go and they aren't going to be listened to, that creates an enormous problem for the entire caucus. And so it's really important that we engage, we support each other, and that we work together on those issues where we can find common ground.
I agree. What do you want to accomplish next year, next session?
This is my goal. I am an enormous advocate of early childhood education and believe that is a critical issue, not only for Iowa, but for the country. And I believe every single dollar we put into early childhood education will be tenfold in terms of the returns that it has to us as a state. And so my goal is to get universal pre-K, and when I talk about the pre-K, I mean prenatal, so that we've got that prenatal care for those pregnant moms, and then we take care of those children from kindergarten, or from 0 to 5, in terms of providing universal care for all of them. Yeah. Iowa is one of those states that has one of the highest number of both family members working. So we are much more dependent upon that good quality child care as a result of that than maybe other states who don't have as high a number of both family members working. Yeah. And so we're working really hard to see what we can do to get that universal pre-K.
Thank you, Mary.
You're very welcome.
It's been a pleasure visiting with you, and I wish you success in accomplishing your goal. And thanks very much. And thanks to you for watching Vantage Point.